What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Tackle Chop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just
the Angler at Large is in the house. What's up, brother? Zoom Master 72. Love the name. WB Jones, how are you, pal? Galen Heathcote. Boy, I got something to talk to you about, Galen. I'll get to you in just a minute.
Please tell me your love is real.
Man, what else we got? Larry Show. What's happening, Larry? Dave Richardson. What's up, Dave? CJ8. How are you doing, buddy? Philip Good. Sam and Sam, always in the house. How you doing, brother? Good to see you guys. Appreciate that very much. Steve Klauser, Matthew Weimer, James Hawk. What's up? Mike Hayer, as always, Mike. How you doing, brother? Good to see you, pal. Robert France and Kevin Carpenter is always here. How you doing, Kevin? Hope all is well with you. Chris, how you doing? Benninger, I think that's how they say it. Jack Hinkle. What's up, Jack? Jeffrey Riddle. Brock Andre is in the house. Andy Garrett. What up, Andy? Man, we got a great show for you guys tonight. As always, we're going to get into some structure fishing. And tonight we're going to talk about fishing the wood, how to break it down, what to look for, how to fish it. And we're going to do that as a series. We're going to do wood tonight, and then we're going to get into rock fishing, and then we're going to do a show on grass fishing and kind of cover all the different types of structure out there and break it down as only we can do here. But first of all, Galen Heathcote, I have been trying to get a hold of you, but at our last show, we were giving away rods, and guess what? You were a big winner of a Fenwick rod right here in my hand. Fenwick spinning rod. It's the Techna PX by Fenwick. So this is your rod, Galen. Give me a call. We'll work out the details of getting it to you. Or maybe you're coming to Cabin Fever sale. We can just give it to you then. But we will hook you up. Congratulations on winning that prize at all of our events. We give away a ton of stuff, and you are one of the lucky winners. Our next show is Cabin Fever. That's our big Cabin Fever sale here at Susquehanna Fish and Tackle, and also online. March 9th through 11th in the shop, we have a star-studded, lineup. Yeah, hell of a lineup. Star-studded lineup for you guys for seminars. And then for the people that can't make it, we have a great online sale starting on Sunday, and that's going to run to Tuesday. So that would be the 12th through the 14th. And we're going to have a great
12:01 a.m.
Yeah, a nice, awesome, sale for you guys also. So you'll be able to take advantage of some of the great sale prices. But this is Tackle Shop Live. And as always, we discuss tackle, we discuss tournaments, and we discuss techniques. And we break them down for you and have some great conversation on that.
We do that.
One more announcement, and some of you guys heard already from Nick, but our own cameraman Nick Wink is a proud pro staff member, newest pro staff member on the St. Croix pro staff team. This is a big thing for him and us. We love it. We appreciate it. And Nick's going to be our ambassador through the shop here, but also working directly with the factory. So it's a big deal for him.
It is.
And congratulations to you, Nick.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
You
It
betcha.
is, Nick. Your hard work and determination does not go unnoticed.
Absolutely.
And we have a bet that before the year is out, you will have a St. Croix tattoo somewhere on your body. 2-to-1 odds it's a tramp stamp.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I might have to do something about that.
Well, I mean, you know, we don't
well,
like to fix. We don't like to put the fix in. So
congrats, Nick. It's a big honor for you, pal.
Now, I am very, very pumped up. I think a lot of people that watch this and listen are pumped up too. And we got a giveaway.
Yeah.
And, from now until the end of Cabin Fever online
Yeah.
and in the shop, you can, if you purchase any St. Croix rod, you can win a fishing trip with me, place unknown. We're keeping that a surprise.
Ah.
And you win your own Victory 7'1" medium heavy grunt casting rod, which is awesome.
It's in the house too. The rod's here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's here.
Yeah.
It's here. They shipped it in. I got it tagged up in the back. And some lucky guy, some lucky girl, somebody's going to take it home.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. So there you go.
That's a good deal. You know, I mean, the rod is nice, but the fishing trip, you know, and here's an interesting perspective on that. You know, we have a guide service here at Susquehanna Fish and Tackle, and it's $500 a day.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to come out fishing, it's $500 per day. So, you know, cameraman Nick's giving away the equivalent of a $500 guide trip, and you're getting a rod. And I know Nick, he'll have lunch for you on the boat. He'll have drinks. That's how he rolls, man. When you fish with Nick, he's got the coolers are loaded.
I'm always ready.
Oh, there's no doubt. There is no doubt in my mind.
Well, you're always going to have Slim Jims and stale pretzels. I mean, that's just the way it is, you know?
I don't think that's how he rolls, man. I'm thinking Wawa coffee and, subs and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But hey.
Yeah. Jeff,
that's going to be a great prize.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a great deal for you guys. So you can go online and you can, if you're interested in purchasing a St. Croix rod, no better place to do it than sfttackle.com or in the shop here. And we have a huge selection of St. Croix rods to pick from.
We have a impressive selection of St. Croix.
It's very, very impressive. It's very impressive.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's hundreds and hundreds of models, and it's craziness. It's craziness.
It's the vast majority of the product line.
Mm-hmm. It is. So, you can check it out and you can get entered in that contest. So why not? It's
just do it.
It's a win-win for everybody. So Vince Torpe is here, George. Jeff Santinello is here. Scott Van Leer. What's up, Scott? Joshua Weinberger, how are you doing, buddy? Good to see you stopping in. Mark,
he's in every week.
Yeah, Mark from Lisa Lake Fishing Club is checking in also. Jeff Reed, what do you say, bud? Yeah, for sure. What do you got, George?
I have some of the specials that we have put together with our partners in the industry that will be participating in the show. These aren't all of them.
Yeah.
This is in addition to a sale on just about everything in the store, plus a 2-page sales sheet that I have of extended discounts. 2 pages.
Whew, man.
2 pages, and I'm talking deep.
And everybody that comes these sales, that's the power sheet you get when you walk through the door.
You want that sheet.
Yeah.
When you come in, get the sales sheet. You do not want to go around here without the sheet.
Yeah, you carry that around.
I mean, holy sheet.
Yeah.
But I've worked together with, and we have worked together with several of our participating manufacturers.
Uh-huh.
And here's a few of the things that we're going to have.
Yeah.
So Big Bite Baits has and I don't have them here yet, but they have like a wide mouth, kind of like that Gamakatsu bag we showed.
Yeah.
It's like a wide mouth plastics bag that you can rack,
all your
whole
baits in.
Bunch of bags of baits in there.
Yeah.
Square bottom. It's not like a flat bag.
Right.
You buy 6 packs of Sensation, you get one of those free, and they sell that bag for $21.
Jeez.
So you're gonna get that bag free with the purchase of 6 bags of Sensation, which, by the way, will be also on sale.
Yeah, and
So you
but-
will
and
save,
by the way,
you know,
some awesome freaking plastics.
you will save on the sensation plus get the swag. Strike King is doing buy 3, get 1 free. Now, what they mean by that is buy 3 of their products.
Yeah, plastics,
and we
crankbaits, spinner
we
baits.
carry a ridiculous amount of Strike King.
Yeah,
And grab a 4th one,
yeah.
and we will take the lowest priced one out of your 4 and take that off your tab. Buy 3, get 1 free. So, I mean, if you're a Strike King guy,
That's money.
you know,
That's money, baby. We love it.
bring your lunch money
Love it.
because you're going to want to get stocked up. Sunline
Sunline.
is sending in a spool of FC Sniper 16-pound. And if you buy a bait casting reel, you will get a free fill off of that spool.
Wow.
It's a
Wow. You know how expensive
it's
that
like
stuff
a
is.
it's like a this
Yeah.
spool is so big that it's coming in on an armored car. Because I mean, you know, it's worth more than the armored car.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Spro has a Sakuro plastic, which is like their version of like a little finesse worm. High-end plastics.
Mhm.
You buy a Spro bait or you make a purchase from Spro.
Yep.
You get a free pack of those plastics.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
if you buy a bunch of Spro baits,
Wow.
come see me. We'll make sure you get a couple packs of plastics.
Yeah. There you
And
go.
last but not least, the last one I want to mention, Seagar has a buy 2, get 1 free. Now, what you're going to do here, the rep is going to bring a whole bunch of Invisex, like 8, 10, 12. He'll have 4 or 5 sizes. And you buy 2 packs of Seagar, whatever, and you get to pick one of those Invisexes.
That's a hell of a deal, man.
So, you know,
That's
it's a
18 to
200-yard spool.
18 to 20 some dollar deal for that, you know,
You ain't
20,
buying no Invisex for $18, bro.
you know. 20
And
bucks.
so those are some
22?
of those are some
lot
of
of
my
money.
little teaser specials.
Gets better every
You know,
minute.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, that's great, man. That's you know, that's how we roll. That's how we roll with these sales, and it's always loaded in the first quarter of the year because that's when everybody's stocking up for the year fishing. So this is a great opportunity to fill your empty spots in your bag. Go do some inventory. You got 9 days to get ready for it. 8 days to get ready for it,
Go rob a bank.
and you know, get yourself an inventory. Come in here and get yourself squared away for the start of the season. Because we're going to have some great stuff. And
Yeah.
for all you Jersey guys that are checking in here, and the guys that are within 3 or 4 hours, maybe even 5 hours, we got guys that travel from Ohio in. That's over 5 hours. You know, it's not too far. You can come in, grab a hotel room down the street. They were $120, I think, or something like that down the road. So it's not that bad. Split it with a buddy, and you know, you can stay for a couple
Put
days.
some time in.
Yeah, have a good old time.
Well, yeah, because you got to watch them Austin seminars, so you might as well stay.
You got to stay and watch the
Well,
seminars.
Nick, the way we got this thing laid out, so Thursday is kind of like we don't really do a lot on Thursday. We have the sale, and it's kind of like for the shoppers.
Yeah.
You know, it's about as quiet as you're going to get. So, you know, and here's an insider tip for you of 32 years of doing this sale. Don't show up first thing in the morning. Show up around 11, 12, 1 if you don't like crowds, because the afternoon thins out a little bit on Thursday.
Yeah.
But Jacopo Capelli is coming in
Yeah.
Thursday afternoon, and he's going to do a seminar. So you're going to get that late afternoon surge. So if you hit that, if you don't like crowds, but you want to take advantage of the sale, insider tip, I'm only telling like 300 or 400 people that right now. Show up at like 11 to 3.
Yeah. Well, along with Jacopo Gilelli being here on Thursday, he's also going to be here on Friday doing a seminar. You know, that, and I think he has to pull out around 4 o'clock, something
He
like
does.
that.
He hits the road at 4, so he'll
Yeah.
be here Thursday
Thursday and Friday till
from
4.
1 till close.
Yep.
and Friday until 4.
Yes.
That really means that he'll be here Thursday from 2 until close,
Yeah.
and Friday until 3.
Yeah. And then we locked down Brian Schmidt. He's going to be here. You know, Brian Schmidt, just a hammer on the Elite Series tour. Great seminar speaker, excellent guy to talk to and pick his brain on swim jig fishing, along with a lot of other things that he's really great at. He does great tidal water fishing. Guy just is a hammer on the Potomac and down on the bay. So that guy, if somebody
anywhere else he goes,
yeah, he's just good
he almost won
fisherman
the
everywhere.
Elite Series on the Mississippi River last year.
Yeah. And then you have Derek Hudnall from St. Croix coming in. So Brian Schmidt's coming in with Hayabusa, and Derek Hudnall's coming in from sponsored by St. Croix. So Derek just had a great tournament down in Florida on Seminole, and he's coming in. He's going to be able to talk about that with you guys and pick his brain. Excellent guy, excellent speaker, and just carries himself really, really well.
He almost won the Seminole tournament.
Yeah. We also have Destin DeMarion coming. Now, Destin, Brian Schmidt's only going to be here Saturday. Derek's going to be here Friday and Saturday. And Destin's going to be here Friday and Saturday. And Destin's going to do a great seminar on smallmouth fishing up on the Great Lake of Erie, and just smallmouth fishing in general. And then, man, as always, and we're so happy for this, Gray Buck is coming. He's coming in from Z-Man, and he's going to be doing a seminar on Saturday.
Coming in from Bill Lewis, courtesy of Bill Lewis.
Oh, Bill Lewis?
Courtesy of Bill Lewis.
Bill Lewis. So he's going to do a Bill Lewis seminar on fishing, and he talked to me today about talking about some forward-facing fishing. So learning how to fish your baits in with a forward-facing unit, understanding the forward-facing unit, and some of that kind of stuff, plus some of his great tips and techniques on doing that. So there you have it. It's a great lineup.
Fantastic.
We're very, very fortunate to get everybody we got. Jacopo is coming in with BKK hooks. I'm excited for you guys to meet him, because George and I had the opportunity last year at the Open to meet him, and just a real fun guy, and super, super competitive, and super has a lot of really cool tips to give you guys. So,
not to mention the SFT pro staff.
Yep.
Will be here to help you.
Yeah.
And they'll be roaming around the showroom floor, talking fishing with you. Please feel free to approach them.
Yeah.
If they huddle up behind the counter, let me know, and I'll throw a bowling ball at them.
So there you go, man. That's the lineup. You don't want to miss this one.
Mike, you getting a big tent this time?
I got the big tent.
Nice.
I upgraded the tent. I got the big tent, made sure they're bringing the right one, and lots of chairs and lots of room. And the other thing about this is, don't worry about parking. We have the Bass Bus running all 3 days. We have extended lot parking about a half a mile away up the road. You pull in there, you sit a few minutes, the Bass Bus rolls up, and then you get taken down here. When you're finished for the day and doing what you're going to do, then you jump on the Bass Bus and you just head right on back.
Door-to-door service.
Door-to-door service. And also we have on-site food. So we're having pulled pork and I think hot dogs and some other things from our local youth club, fishing club.
They put out some good product. I think they got some commercial cooking background working with them.
Well, they have a guy that is a commercial cooker that does the pulled pork for them.
Everybody has a guy.
And they got this guy, and I'm telling you, that pulled pork.
Everybody has a guy.
Banging. They'll have drinks and everything for you out there, and not only that, but when you purchase something from them, you're doing a justice for those kids. So make sure you check that out. So it's a full day event. Come on in, check us out. And okay, now let's get this show going here. And the first thing we always talk about is a little bit of tackle talk. So in every Tackle Shop Live, we have a section of Tackle Talk.
We do.
And this is no different than any other one. And George, what do we have? What are we going to break down today?
Yeah, we got a couple things here. We have some new and some old worth mentioning. So first of all, this week was the official launch of the new VMC Redline hooks.
Redline. They got
So
some great hooks, man. I love everything about this hook line.
So VMC, I mean, their hooks are very high quality. They several years ago they partnered up with Ike and they came out with the Ike approved line of hooks. They're famous for their resin closed eye. So where your eye gets bent around, and it's amazing, especially when you're flipping, how many times your knot will spin around the eye of your hook and get into that crack. And actually, I've already had it myself where I've set the hook and it's popped out of that opening. So, some of the flipping hooks are famous for like a soldered eye.
Yeah.
If you look at Gamakatsu's line of straight shank flipping hooks and Hayabusas and Owner, they're all like soldered shut. And VMC, started with the Ike approved, and they're like, no, we're going to use a resin, like an epoxy, and we're going to glue them shut. And they build up like a little ball of resin on there, and it works great.
Yeah.
So now they are doing a premium hook. Their previous mentioned line of hooks is, traditional, high carbon wire, black nickel. This hook is
vanadium steel.
It's made from a vanadium steel, which, it's not new to the hook industry, but
it's strong.
It's a very premium wire.
Yeah.
It's got a coating on it that's like what you put on like a frying pan.
Yeah.
It's called PTFE. So it's a slick coated hook. A lot of brands are doing the slick coating.
Yeah. Helps with hook penetration and hook sets going through the plastic real easy.
Cool little keeper up top there. It's a little clip. The hooks are suspended on like a little wire pin that clips into that black block.
Hold that still so we
that
can
is labeled up with the hook size on it. This is their.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
Think about it. Think about not having to separate your hooks, in different compartments. You can stack them right in there, man. Get right to them.
This one here is the Nico Wacky Rig hook with the fluorocarbon weed guard. Super nice hook, very, very similar to the other version of the Nico rig hook that they have, which kind of made this whole straight shank fluorocarbon weed guard hook thing famous. Was their original Nico Wacky Rig hook,
which everybody loved.
Mustad came out with their Titan, because of that. Gamakatsu came out with several hooks because of that. That hook is very, very successful. So now that hook obviously is available in the Redline. A treble that's interesting. It's a very strong treble, but it's a very light wire treble. It's a finesse treble. But with the strength of that vanadium wire, you're not getting that flex like you would on a traditional high carbon wire.
Yeah.
There's probably about 6 or 7 hooks in the line. These are just a couple of them. Obviously, you got to have a good wide gap. So that's their hybrid wide gap. Right?
Yeah.
Got to have that.
Got to have that. That's your standard one of my standard hooks, man. You got to have that in a lineup.
And of course, you got to have your straight shank flipping hook.
Yeah.
That's a standard go-to hook.
Yep.
And you'll notice the keeper for your bait is up here. It's a little looped over piece of fluorocarbon that is resined to the shank of the hook. So, it's probably the most forgiving keeper as far as splitting your baits out.
Yeah.
So that's the VMC Redline hook series. VMC dropped the launch on that this yesterday.
Yeah.
Went official yesterday.
Yeah.
Your pricing is going to range from $6.99. Most of the hooks are $6.99 to like $7.99 a pack. The flipping hook is the most premium priced hook, which is $10.99 a pack. And they are a needle point.
Yeah.
As far as the point shape, they're not triangulated, they're needle. And yeah,
Punch a hole in that sucker.
good hook.
Yep.
Good hook. And then we have a couple items from Zoom. So Zoom, of course, pretty much undisputed leader of plastics. They have a Unitoad.
Unitoad.
Remember when the Horny Toad came out?
Yeah.
The Horny Toad, like,
Dominated, man. The greatest thing ever.
it altered the whole toad market. I mean, it altered if you're fishing it like a toad,
Yeah.
but it's even almost as famous as a trailer on a swim jig or a chatterbait. Now, they've taken that body, right? The Horny Toad body, which that's what that is.
Yeah.
And they've attached a boot foot swim bait to it.
Yeah.
Henceforth calling it the Unitoad.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Uni Bomber.
Yeah. And you can just imagine that thing going across the surface and that tail just flopping around and creating all kinds of bubbles and noise and all kinds of stuff. Very unique topwater bait. But it also has other applications.
If you're looking for a nice, bulky trailer to slow roll past your big-headed buddies, aka largemouth, how about on a chatterbait? There it is on a slobber knocker.
Yeah.
How about on a swim jig?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my.
Yep.
The Unitoad. $6.99 for a pack of 5. And one of the things I like about them is they're in a clam.
Keeps the tail nice.
You're not getting that tail all
Kinky
crimped
tail.
up and messed up. And
That's a no-no for me, Nick. Right on the bottom of the boat for George to use.
not a ton of colors.
Right on the bottom of the boat.
But the important colors. You have a white and a black.
Yeah.
And a green pumpkin. And a green pumpkin with a pearl white belly. And a sungill.
Carl Jacobson was using something like that.
Yeah, he was using a mega swammer from X-Zone Lures, which is the equivalent of like a 4.8 Kitech on a swim jig. It was basically his version of a weedless swim bait.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing with no small fish.
No.
You know what he says? Feel my heart.
Feel my heart. Doesn't come in red, Joshua, but we have it in black, green pumpkin, sungill,
White, green pumpkin with a pearl belly.
and green
What,
pumpkin
you're
with pearl
like
belly.
You on replay here or something?
Yeah, I'm just repeating for fellow may not have heard it.
Oh.
Yeah. Plus
That's what replays are for.
She like,
Check this out. Now, I know you.
Yeah.
Because me and you fish together a lot.
too much.
And I know that you love to flip a brush hog.
Mm.
And occasionally a baby brush hog.
Love it.
But what if you
What
if you took a brush hog and a craw and put them in like a microwave and zapped them? Oh man, this summit right here. The brush craw. Look at the end of them legs, people. Let me give you some separation there. Oh my. Oh, can you imagine?
Get the net.
The
Get the
brush
net.
crawl. So
Get the net, Nick.
Nick, we got all kinds of colors. We got green pumpkin, of course. We have, this is green pumpkin with blue flake. I'm telling you, green pumpkin with blue flake is a very deceiving color because it really darkens it down, but you get that glitter because it's a fine flake. In the water, you get like a little, not even a flash, more like movement off of it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
The brush crawl. So we got 8 in a pack. $6.99. Now, for those of you who don't know what a brush hog is, you may be on the wrong channel here. But I mean, it's one of the all-time greatest flipping baits ever made.
That's for sure.
And I mean,
That's
we
for
mention
sure.
it all the time.
Yeah.
It's also one of the all-time greatest Carolina rig baits ever made.
Absolutely.
And a little known fact, it makes a fairly good trailer in certain circumstances on the back of a jig, a swim jig, a chatterbait. Very versatile bait.
Yeah.
Comes in 3 sizes. Comes in a baby brush hog. Comes in a mid-sized brush hog. Comes in a brush hog. We literally carry 30 colors of each. It's ridiculous. Not 30 colors of the mid-size, but the baby and the original. So now we have this brush crawl, which we are going to flip, which we are going to Carolina rig.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what else. We might cut it down, rip these appendages off, and turn it into like a finesse jig trailer. I mean, it's just, this is going to be some Frankenstein stuff happening here.
Yeah.
Very excited. $6.99 a pack, 9 count. What did I say 9 count? 8 count. 8 count pack, $6.99.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Very excited to bring you the Unitoad and the Brush Crawl.
Brush Crawl.
Encourage you to check them out, sfttackle.com. Definitely snag up a couple packs of each because I'm here to tell you this is going to be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I have one other bait that's not new. In fact, it's been around for a while. But, you know, we're big fluke fishermen here. Super flukes. I mean, we talk about them all the time. But, you know...
Hey, Corbin, how are you, buddy?
But, you know, everybody makes a super fluke replica. Berkley makes the power bait jerk shad. Strike King makes the caffeine shed. And I could go on and on. But the one I want to show you tonight is interesting from a couple perspectives. One is the sizing on it. And 2 is the weight on it. And 3 is the colors that it's available in. It's big bite bait. I don't even know if I can get some bitch out of the bag, to be honest with you. I mean, I got this thing carved up like a Christmas turkey.
I'm like, what are you doing here?
So it's called the Jerk Minnow. I'm going to show you both sizes side by side. And way back in the day, SFT pro staffer Dave Schindler was a big-time big bite bait pro staffer. And his guide customers fished with this bait. And they did quite well. What's interesting is the weight. So this is the 4-inch, right? Which is very much like a junior.
Yeah.
So this is
a little bit bigger than the junior.
Fish it weightless. Fish it on a jig head. Fish it on a drop shot.
Donkey rig it.
You know, they have some awesome swirl colors. This is a pearl chartreuse swirl. So, I mean, Demiki rig. I mean, the whole 9.
Yeah.
This is a 5-inch, which is just a hair heavier.
There's Dave Schindler dropping in. How are you, Dave?
Right? Compared to a super fluke. but a hair heavier. So old Dave Schindler there, he put this bad boy on the map. Look at that green pumpkin chartreuse swirl. My God.
That's the thing about it. They Zoom has their colors, but here's something you could show something a little different. You have a favorite color that you can't find in the Zoom. You can jump over to these guys and try something different. I know we had a couple of really good days fishing, and the fluke just wasn't getting it done. So we tried the believe it or not, we tried this color right here in the big one. I mean, it was a bright son of a gun, and started catching fish on it. But I will tell you this, the thing's big and heavy. It's had a lot of weight to it, so
Great.
you can throw it real well.
Great little bait.
And it sinks nice and has a great action to it.
Yeah, Bob Austin, it's exactly like a super fluke. It's got the same split belly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, name your brand. It's right like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the sizing is unique. The colors are awesome. They have a scent, big bite. For those of you who don't fish big bite baits, they have a scent. I would liken it to like a game fish spike it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Nice.
that is your tackle talk.
Yeah, section.
tonight.
Right on.
Nice
right?
job, George. I liked it.
Had
Yeah.
some-
It's exciting
I'm
stuff.
not going to get crazy here. I mean, but
It's
next
exciting
week,
tackle.
next week, the eve of Cabin Fever, I'm rolling out a rod line. You're going to want to have your popcorn ready, have, your friends over, and get comfortable, because I'm going to roll out a rod line for you next week.
Yeah.
That is going to blow your mind. I mean, this thing is awesome.
Yeah.
But we shall not speak of it until next Thursday night. I'm
Um,
not even putting it out in the store until next Thursday night.
So if you guys could, why don't you hit the share and like and comment right now for us, and get your buddies involved, and anybody that's missing it can get in here and watch the rest of the show, because we got a lot more coming up right now, and this is where we're going to jump into. You want to jump right into some tournament talk, George? Might lead us into
Yeah.
so we're going to talk some tournament talk.
We're going to roll over a few things here that's going to kind of
and
play on our topic tonight.
we always talk tournaments because we like to break down what's happening right now, and and kind of learn from what we're watching on the TV and what we're watching on our computers and phones every day. And we got some takeaways from it that we'll bust down to you right now. And this is tournament talk. Yeah.
Remember the Merv Griffin show?
Yeah, I do actually. Jeez, that was in
Yeah,
the
they had that really
late
cool
70s.
set, like
Late-
a big couch.
Yeah.
Merv Griffin, he had that crazy little microphone. It was,
Yeah.
like real skinny, like
Yeah, real long.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
2 foot long
Seinfeld
microphone.
did a show where Kramer got an old Merv Griffin set,
Yeah.
and he started having like all these guests over to his apartment, or somebody would just walk in. Hey, look who's
Yeah.
we need some commercial breaks and some Merv Griffin up in here. You know what I mean? We need to channel some Merv Griffin up in here.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Wear some of the plaid suits.
Yo, leisure shoots, bro.
Yeah.
Polyester leisure suits.
Absolutely.
Ha!
Nice slip-ons.
I would go down that freaking road in a
White
heartbeat.
slip-ons, man. Absolutely.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do some polyester leisure shoot Merv Griffin a little later on this summer.
Well, I went down to get my hat for the show, because we were watching
What do you mean your hat?
I was watching the live with BASS Elite Series, and Cifuentes was just blowing me away, man. And I was like a total fan, and I called up down at the Tractor Supply, and they had cowboy hats down there, and I was like, I'm getting one of them. I'm wearing it every day now. And so I went down, and they had them, but they were like little small kid sizes. Definitely wouldn't fit my head.
I got one.
And Yeah, I know, but you don't have a Cifuentes hat.
Well, you should say it the other way around. Cifuentes doesn't have an acorn hat.
No, that's ridiculous.
That's badass.
George started the trend.
Yeah.
Like most things. I mean, just saying. So, yeah, we're going to try to effort Joey Cifuentes on the show.
That guy was awesome.
Hopefully the week after after Cabin Fever. So,
But look at the thought process this guy went through, man. He was like, he went out and practiced, and he had a good practice, and he just did stuff a little different than what a lot of guys were doing.
well, I mean, I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Pre-spawn. We just did 18 shows in a row on freaking pre-spawn. Every pre-spawn thing you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
Up until, when you actually have fish spawning and post-spawn and pre-spawn.
Yeah.
What is the number one thing we look for if we've never been to a body of water, or if it's a body of water we fish every day and we're looking at a map? What's the number one thing? And I hope you guys took notes, because this is going to be embarrassing if you can't answer this. What's the number one thing we look for as far as where to start?
Well, I mean, for the early pre-spawners, we're looking for channel swings, heading into, getting close to the spawning areas.
So, and we
Yeah.
always call that the turn in and the turn out. What's our famous term for that?
Wedge.
The pie-shaped wedge.
I like the wedge. Yeah.
I like the pie-shaped wedge because, I like pie.
Wedge and pie-shaped wedge. What's the difference?
It's the pie-shaped wedge. Don't try to change it. This shit's about to be patented, trademarked. Anyways, Cifuentes is like, yeah, I'm fishing a channel swing up against a flat. But the beauty of it was the flat was in the middle of the lake. So, if you can picture the shoreline being where his boat was, that's where that channel would come in and hit that shoreline, right? Channel comes in, hits the shoreline, turns out. Pie-shaped wedge in, pie-shaped wedge out. The only problem is this shoreline is underwater and a quarter mile offshore.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely textbook. Cifuentes, Joey,
Yeah.
I mean, I was all in on your program from the second you said what you were doing.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And what you couldn't see, you saw a couple stumps sticking up, which were actually treetops, because he was in 20-something foot of water.
Yeah.
But what you couldn't see, for every one you saw, he was like, his boat was constantly rocking and bouncing and banging into these things. Right?
Can you imagine trying to run around that lake?
Well,
it's ridiculous.
That Fujita that finished second,
Yeah.
he went and pre-fished that lake with his brand new Skeeter FXR.
Yeah.
And then he had to go get a new Skeeter FXR because he ripped the bottom of the boat out.
Really? Yeah.
Well, I'm talking like Gilligan's Island theme song. You're going down.
Wow. That is a terrible lake, man.
Well, I know the one guy, he went through 2 lower units
Yeah.
in 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just the ones you heard about.
Right.
Everybody was bumping and grinding. I mean, well, let's face it, Lake Seminole, one of them, like George said, one of the most famous, lakes
Bucket list.
out there, from day one Bassmasters to,
Dude, Jack Wingate,
yeah.
Ray Scott.
Yeah. I mean, that's like
I mean, if you don't like this stuff here,
that's a
you're on
bucket
the
list
wrong
lake.
channel.
And they've been fishing it with those damn stumps and the no buoy markers, man. There's like these channel markers, but they're so far apart.
Well,
And all you do is just get off the channel a little bit and you're freaking toasted.
so
You're toast.
like the locals that run the lake regularly, and it makes sense, because you kind of know where the channels are.
yeah.
They mark them with rebar. So they go out and they get the stump right on the edge of the channel and they drive a big hunk of rebar in it and then put like a
Flag or something on it.
battle or a flag on top of it. Well, over the winter and stuff, that stuff tends to disappear.
Yeah.
So now you're
Running in with
like rebar. It's like Mike and I run a channel Mike and I run a channel on the river here where they actually dynamited a pathway through the rock way back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was legal. They did it legally. And they have big eye bolts that are screwed and cemented into the rocks that they hook the buoys to. Well, when it gets really low, the freaking buoy lays on top of the rock, right? So sometimes they don't even put the buoys out.
Yeah.
And
they haven't put them out for years.
You know, you can run this channel and you know, there can be like a half an inch of water on this eye bolt. And one night I was coming back up the river at dusk. And my friend Pete Holmes was following me in his boat. And as I went past the eye, I looked back to see where he was. And I saw in the boat wake, I saw the eye bolt. And I'm like waving, I'm driving like, cause it's low and I'm waving.
Well, what were you doing going over top the eye bolt? That's not the channel.
No, it was right next to, I was right in the channel, right next to it.
Oh.
But like, that's what
Canal lock. Yeah.
Hitting
Mark.
that would be like hitting the rebar.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it would tear it. If you hit that eye bolt, it would just rip your boat right in half.
Know, this lake has all those elements to it. And then you turn loose the Elite Series on it.
Yeah.
And you got Cifuentes all by himself.
Yeah, nobody around him.
Nobody else in the whole entire tournament is on his
Was
game.
anybody doing anything else like that?
There was a few guys fishing offshore timber, but they weren't dialed into that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
And George, what's really caught my attention over these first two tournaments is one angler in both tournaments off the beaten path.
Totally.
And I wasn't feeling well this weekend, so I watched the whole thing, and I'm pulling my inner George, and I'm watching everything. And I got to tell you, after day two, I'm thinking, if nobody screws this guy over as far as his area,
game's over.
The game's over.
Yeah. I said it to George too. I said, forget about it. This guy's going to win this tournament because he was catching that many fish and they just kept loading in there and loading in there and loading in there.
Well, how about his presentation? So he's in this stump infested environment. He even said that most of the fish that he casted to, he could only flip from here to there. And there was still 2 to 3 stumps between him and the fish. Drop shot on a spinning rod. So he goes with a power spinning rod.
Yeah.
15 braid, 12-pound fluorocarbon leader.
And he lost a lot of fish.
A little worm. Right? And then instead of your traditional drop shot where you nose hook it, he Texas rigged it with a straight shanked hook. But he went with a 1-0. So he Texas rigged it with a 1-0 hook. I wish I had a 1-0 hook here. I would Texas rig this. But he Texas rigged that worm. So now that worm is weedless, just like you would, if you were fishing that timber, you would do a Texas rig.
Yeah.
Well, his Texas rig just happened to be on a drop shot. Right?
Yeah.
Here we go. So he was using a little 1-0 worm hook.
Well, it's
and, I mean, you can use this as an offset round bend, would be perfect for it.
Yeah.
You can use a straight shank like a rebarb.
Yeah, like I was going to say, the Robo rebarb hook is what that was made for, was Texas rigging drop shot.
Well, I know our very own GDP. This is his drop shot hook, the Hayabusa round bend offset shank. And you see it's nice and straight. So now you got your drop shot here, right?
And he was throwing, guess what color he was throwing, Nick?
Morning Dawn.
Morning Dawn. I mean, Morning Dawn. Come on.
He said,
is that not like the greatest drop shot worm ever?
He said exactly what Greg told us a couple years ago. I don't care where I go, what lake it is, what part of the country is, I drop shot a Morning Dawn worm.
Yeah.
And that's what Greg said.
Yeah. They use that thing everywhere. We catch fish on it everywhere. It's amazing.
We had our Missile Baits magic worm samples.
Yes.
And the missile crew sent us a bag of everything.
Yeah.
And we were fishing with Greg, and I'm like, hey, you ought to try these, man. These are pretty freaking nice worms. And he loves him some Morning Dawn Robo worm.
And that's all he took.
And he's like,
I don't want any of them other ones.
He rifled through the whole pack, and he took there's a couple colors that kind of look like that. He took them. Guess what? There's something to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting. I was listening to Clifford Perch. He was doing a little podcast afterwards. He was fishing at deeper water too. And so was 2 other anglers in his area. They could see Joey catching these fish, but it all comes down to what you guys started with, that pie-shaped area.
Dude,
they weren't at the sweet spots.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm going to have T-shirts made with a channel swing on it. That's going to happen.
But one thing we got to give these guys credit for, they knew he found the sweet spot, and they said, you know what? Good for you, buddy.
That'd be pretty shitty if you pulled up on it.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting,
you wouldn't want to live that one down.
you know, and you guys know the game that are regulars here. You know, we love taking takeaways away from these tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the Sports Center angle.
Yeah.
But we love the takeaways, the knowledge. And what I found interesting was the channel swing.
Yeah.
Right. The drop shot.
Yeah.
Right. But the power spinning setup, and our very own Greg DePalma has done numerous seminars here and elsewhere.
Yeah.
And he'll be the first one to tell you when he's drop shot and cover, he fishes a 7-foot or a 7-1 medium heavy Zodius rod.
Spinning rod. Yeah.
Spinning.
Medium heavy.
Spinning.
Yeah.
With 12-pound leader.
Yeah.
And a Texas rigged Morning Dawn worm. And that I'm watching Cifuentes break it down, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I know from listening to Greg, I switched my drop shot rig over to 12-pound.
Yeah.
Because I either did lighter line, or I did a power shot on a flipping rod.
Yeah, well, we always did, we never really had drop shot rod, for where we're at. We always fished medium actions, fast taper.
Yeah, we need a little more balls.
We always need some because we're fishing tidal water. We're
Cover.
fishing cover, a lot of cover, rock,
big ass smallmouth in the
yeah,
down deep.
Yeah. So, we never had the need to fish the 7'6", 7'3", 7'2", more moderate taper rod because the lines didn't dictate that. The only reason why you would buy a drop shot rod like that is because of the lines that you're going to the light lines,
tiny hooks,
the deep water, super deep water, fishing clear, really super clear lakes. So around here we didn't have that. So that's the way we always drop shot was something a little heavier, but not medium heavy. Not medium heavy, and Greg always blew me away with that. But we definitely did more of the 15 to 12.
Well, the other cool aspect of
leader,
it was 1-0 hook.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And 6-pounders.
It's nuts.
So
it's nuts.
That's your first place finisher. Your second place finisher was Fujita.
That kid, man.
And he was fishing flipping on a real lightweight, a 4.8 depths bull flat, which is basically a bellows gill, like a G-crack bellows gill. And he was fishing a crazy ass freaking little cube. Crazy ass thing. We're not even gonna really get into it. But what's interesting about him is the talk about him prior to the season as he's a rookie is he's 20 years old. He's over from Japan, and he is straight up killing it. Comes over here, fishes the opens, qualifies for the elites, and they say that he is unbelievable on his electronics. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot out of Fujita.
Yeah. With those crazy, crazy baits. I was given these by a guy about 4 months ago. And last summer he was fishing them and he was buying them for about a year from, it was the OSP, called the Dice, I think they call it, but they call it, what you buy here? And it has that same scent as,
G-Crack.
yeah, the G-Crack, that Frito scent. But, and I was like, the hell is this thing? I'm like, yeah, there ain't no way in hell. But I had an idea about this, fishing it on the river in the summertime. I had an idea about fishing it, but the conditions never arose. But I mean, seriously,
So there's not a hook in it?
no,
How do you hook it? Like,
Just
what do you do?
like, wacky rig it.
Okay.
Look at that thing. It's just a block of plastic with a bunch of things sticking out of it. It's the craziest thing you ever saw. But what's neat is this kid, is
Just saying.
he's doing this kind of stuff.
He's fishing it weightless on a spinning rod,
Yeah.
casting it to cruising fish.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to use it for, sight fishing and,
Yo, Fujita. Did you ever hear of a Senko? Just saying, bro.
wow.
But I thought it was
know.
pretty cool. I mean, him in
know.
second, some of his techniques I really found interesting. He made the freaking note page.
Yeah.
Third place,
Yeah. My
Tyler
kid's gonna be
Rivette.
special.
so he wins Okeechobee. Third place here, he's flipping this bait he designed called the Sucker Punch, which is like a creature bait. But what's interesting with it is you rig it on its side, not flat. So it's like a creature bait, but you rig it this way,
Yeah.
with the flappers. And he caught some fish on a frog, walking a frog, and he caught some fish on a wacky rigged. His sponsor, Excite Baits, makes like a Senko. The guy's hot, man. He's on fire. So he made the note page.
Yeah.
And then we went a little farther than normal. Fourth place, Pat Schlapper. And he caught fish on big bite bait sensation worm, little worm. He swam a swim worm, a big bite bait tour swim worm with a little 1/4 ounce bullet weight and just swam it and then dropped it in the holes in the grass, which, that's killer. Pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, grass fishing 101. And on the last day, he goes out and he throws a Vision 110 +1 stain reaction orange belly. And I'm driving to the river to go fishing. And I got this thing on my phone on the console playing through the Bluetooth. This guy is wrecking fish. Just wrecking them. He had 19 pounds in minutes on that jerk bait. And it was just, those conditions were kind of like overcast a little bit and what have you.
Yeah.
So he made the list because of that jerk bait on day 4. Total switch up from his program because he was drop shotting the little bitty big bite bait sensation. He was swimming a swim worm, a big bite bait tour swim worm, and he was course fishing a jackhammer
Yeah.
with a kamikaze crawl. Kamikaze swim on. I'm sorry. And then the fourth day, he's like, nope. I'm feeling the jerk bait. The skies are right. The conditions are right. The overnight temps were right. And he goes about like I thought he was going to win the damn tournament. And then, of course, fifth place was Derek Hudnall. And he makes the paper because of a great effort. Plus, he's coming to the shop next week.
Yep. Yeah.
And, of course, Jackhammer. He's a Missile Baits guy, so he had the Spunk Shad on the back.
Right.
The the Spro McStick. He's a Spro guy. He fishes the McStick jerkbait like crazy,
Love that
which
jerk
is a
bait.
great jerkbait.
Great jerk bait.
But something we're going to see in this next tournament, which is in the end of April, which is I can't think of the name of the lake. We are going to see wake bait, not a little wake bait, but a waking minnow.
Yeah.
We're going to see the
Rapala.
Rapala,
BX.
X-Rap,
That
or the BX Waker.
minnow, yeah.
But this guy fished the Spro Zero Minnow. And the Spro Zero Minnow is a modern day version of a Cordell Redfin. So back in the day on these spawning lakes and these clear water spawning lakes,
Yeah.
the hot deal was to wake a Cordell Redfin minnow. Right?
What's the lake, Nick?
Lake Murray.
Yeah, Lake Murray.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. So they wake these Cordell minnows, and by waking them, they just swim them on the surface so they make a little V wake. And spawning fish just blast them.
Yeah.
And if you miss them, you follow up. Deadly technique on spawning fish on clear water impoundments. The Bomber Long A and Bone modified with the lip heated up and bent down. Famous. Well, this Spro Zero Minnow
Yeah.
was made to do that.
Yeah.
And Derek Hudnall broke it out. And, when he gets here, we're going to have him talk about that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very specific spawning tactic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Very specific.
Because we're all about wake baits,
Yeah.
but we're not really dialed into wake minnows.
Yep.
That's a southeast thing. So hats off to him. And then, of course, our boy Bill Lowen, we got to mention Bill. Hell of a job. And, Bill keeps it pretty simple. He put the swim jig to work. But you know what's interesting about Bill Lowen and a swim jig? We talk about swim jigs all the time. I know Nick fishes them. I know you fish them. I fish them like I'm addicted to them, man.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get my fix. Hey, y'all got any swim jigs out there now? I'm just saying. Quarter ounce. I hardly ever throw a quarter ounce swim jig. He's throwing a quarter ounce swim jig over top of all that vegetation. Learn.
Yeah.
Strike King cutter worm, which a lot of people fish in that situation. You can swim it like a traditional, swim worm.
Yeah.
And a sexy frog. A lot of those spawning fish, we talked about on our show last week. A lot of those pre-spawn and spawn fish are eating that frog.
They are, man.
I watched
They are.
Boom Boom today on the championship round of the Weigh 'em in 5 Tackle Warehouse, bring 5 back alive, weigh 'em scale tournament. And Boom Boom was throwing a frog, and he was really getting some kick-ass blow-ups on it. And they were pre-spawn fish. So,
yeah.
We talked about it last week a little bit.
Remember that with those stuff where
you got to get the
even around
confidence
here.
from these tournaments.
Yeah.
Right. So, I didn't break down any more events because it's too much.
George, it's really cool that you brought up Bill Lowen because he was here for the last event. For the Bass Fest.
Bass Fest, yeah.
And I was talking to him, and he was really disappointed in himself last year. I think he tried to fish outside of his strengths. And it's really nice to see him getting back in his wheelhouse, doing his thing.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
In tour angling today, you can't watch 2 minutes of live without hearing the word forward facing sonar. And it plays from 3 feet of water on out.
Yeah.
But to see guys like Bill, like Tyler Rivette, fish a tournament in the dirt, in the grass, old school, the way most of us still fish, was very refreshing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, one more thing on tournament talk. You know, we're this high school thing, man, it's just blowing my mind. So the Bassmaster High School second tournament of the season,
Yeah.
Lay Lake, Alabama High School
Yeah.
teams.
Oh,
Up
300.
here in
How
the
many?
Northeast.
How many?
They
300
got to
and-
get their shit together. 246 teams.
Wow. Wow.
Like anywhere else but here, this is a big deal. This is a stepping stone to college, which is huge.
Yeah.
You know, we're following that.
Yep.
Huge. So, Northeast,
Hey, we're
get it together.
we've got some great clubs that we back, and we got some great we do a lot, and we have 4 or 5 good clubs, but there's a lot to be done. There's a lot of kids that want to fish that just don't have a club near them, and it's not working out for them. So
High school,
yeah,
not club.
no, I know, but these high
High
schools don't
school
want to
teams.
get the high schools don't want to get behind it.
No, up here they don't want to get
That's what I'm
behind
saying.
it.
That's what I'm saying.
Here's 246 teams that would like to get behind it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and hats off to the people that are donating their boat and time for those events.
You know, there's a killer.
captains.
There's a
Yeah,
killer
the captains.
Pennsylvania team that has been to numerous high school championships, worlds, out in the Lock Haven part of the state, middle part of the state. Tremendous team with tremendous dedicated coaches and, to your point, boat captains and resources that the school is making available, but it's not enough. There's a bunch of schools in the Northeast that should be entertaining this program because, Mike and I know quite a few people in the tackle industry that are making a very nice living for themselves that came out of college bass fishing.
Yeah.
Been recruited by big time multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yep.
And now hold lofty positions within those companies.
Yeah.
So this is real as it gets.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I tell you what, if they'd have had this when I was in high school.
Hey, before you guys
Lord.
get away from
Never would have graduated.
tournament talk. So I said I pulled out my inner George and I'm listening and I'm watching. And every 5 minutes I keep hearing about something. And I'm like, what would I be if I didn't bring it up today? So I'm going to give it to you, Mike.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if you didn't walk away from watching that tournament and know the power of bait fuel,
Yeah.
hey,
I've been saying it.
crazy.
I've been saying it. I've been whooping George's ass on this ever since it came out. I use this stuff. And there's something to it. Let's say what you want about scent, but when you're fishing side by side and our talent is very equal, and I put this
Really
on
giving himself a lot of credit, isn't he?
and I start rolling over top of him like this is it,
I just, if you watch that
Something
live,
about it. Something about
every
it.
day, it's all you heard about. It's like,
and it doesn't
like
smell
crap.
like anything.
yeah.
It's an enzyme thing or something. I don't know.
And pro after pro, as they were doing their own live, they're like, hey, we're not sponsored by these guys, but
Yeah.
you better be using it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. This stuff's for real. For sure.
I know we got to get some more ordered up, man. We sold
right.
a truckload of that stuff.
Well, what's cool about this is with Cifuentes winning that tournament, he won it fishing around wood.
Yeah.
And, that's what kind of sparked our topic for the night. And that's breaking down wood, breaking down the types of wood and how to approach it. And there's a lot to it. And it's not going to take a long time to go through it, but it's a lot to fishing wood. And we want to discuss, the types of wood. And I think one of the most popular types of wood that most guys fish is the laydown, because it's a visible piece of structure.
It's classic. I mean, we
Yeah.
all that's how we learned.
That's how we learn that visible piece of structure. We
Cover.
Yeah, that cover. We go in and
Let's get your terminology straight.
Jesus.
Structure is
You know how I struggle doing this show.
Let me tell you.
People should be sending me money
Let me tell you about
for
structure.
standing next to this freaking knucklehead.
Structure.
I mean, it's out of control.
Structure is like ledges, points, flats.
Maybe-
Cover is
maybe
like
in your
wood,
world.
rock.
Hey,
Maybe in your world.
I gotta tell you something. So I'm watching this live again, and the guy from Australia,
Yeah. Carl Jacobson.
Carl Jacobson.
Jacobson.
Fear my heart.
And this is when you know you've been with George too long. He's going down through, and he's like, "Yeah, all this structure," and I'm like,
I know, me too. I saw it.
No,
I'm like, hell no. That's
George
cover.
ain't having this shit.
That's cover.
See?
You need to get it right.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You can't even
No,
stand next to
he
him.
rubbed off on me already.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, he's not rubbing off. I've been next to him for a long time. And
Cover and structure.
so,
Two different things.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's poll it. Put it up on the poll. What do you think it is? A lay down. Put it up on there so we can at least get a look at it. So anyway, we got these lay downs that is probably the most popular cover out there. Okay. And
It's classic cover.
you know, so you know, what about the approach? What about the presentation? What about the baits and some tricks that we would do for that type of fishing?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of it has to do with the season. You know, how you're going to fish this in this time of the year through the spawn is going to be different from like the dog days of summer, for example. It is going to be different in the fall. So my take is, and today was a great example. If you got a chance to watch the Bass Pro Tackle Warehouse Wave 5 Fishing Tour Championship round, they had a warm night last night. They had dirty water to dingy colored water. They had overcast clouds. They had pre-spawn to some spawning fish, to fish trying to move up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pretty much what we're getting ready to come into in another month in our part of the world. Obviously today in Appling, Georgia, that's how it's going down. And a lot of guys threw what I would consider to be, under those conditions, the most appropriate and effective technique, and that's a spinnerbait.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you the spinnerbait, but I want you to pay attention to these blades. So this is a Colorado, Indiana combination, right? Chartreuse and white, pretty basic there. You get that dingy, you know, kind of spring stain.
Yeah.
Little bit brown tint to it.
Yeah.
You want that chartreuse and white. If it's too dirty, you want that red kicker. That front blade, that red kicker, right? Little two Colorados. I like a 6 Indiana. My favorite combo, Colorado, Indiana. Gold on gold. Red kicker on gold. But there's a few things about that laydown. That spinnerbait don't mean a damn thing if you don't do a couple things right.
Yeah.
And that's number one is your approach.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, the tree too, you know, if it's a bushy type of tree or more of a, you know, older
right
tree, you know,
right.
that has a lot to do with it.
You know, I like to look at the size of that tree. You know, if it's a pretty big tree, you know, it's coming way out.
Exactly.
From where you see it.
Exactly.
And way back in the day, way too many times, me and Mike would get up on top of them things.
We'd run right into it
way too much
with the trolling motor, and
you know that piece of wood that you don't see,
kill yourself right away.
So there's a couple things about this tree that's very, very important. First of all, and actually we have a game changer now. It's called 360.
Yeah.
When you're fishing shallow wood, The game changer
Yeah.
is 360.
Yeah, but if you don't have it, you can talk about this that way too.
Absolutely, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about if you do have it,
Oh, I know. It's a game
because
changer.
we do. So the beauty of it is stay off that tree, right? Because there's a lot of that wood that you don't see.
Yes.
But to me,
that's exactly right.
Mike, whether it's a spinnerbait, a square bill, even a buzzbait, to me, the worst thing you can do is cast across the limbs.
Yeah.
You know, I used to hate it when somebody was fishing with me and we're sliding the boat nice and stealthy into position, and they would cast from the back of the boat across the entire tree. So, you know, if the limbs are laying in the water like this, you want to pull that spinnerbait, that buzzbait, that square bill down that limb, not across it. And to me, that's critical.
Yeah. Well, you know, a tree comes out like this. So, you know, you're basically fan casting the tree as you're kind of moving into it, and you got to work it around the whole thing, or just work this section of it, you know. But I like to work the outside edge, and then, you know, if you get bit or whatever, then it kind of tells you something. But if you don't get bit, then you kind of move into it and get deeper and deeper and deeper into the tree. But, you know, those tree branches, they don't all come straight out. They come out at angles, and it's important to understand that, which is common sense, but it's important to understand that they're coming out at you all different directions. So, you know, set down a little further back than what you normally do, get up, let the boat kind of coast in, and keep the boat off, and make those a little longer casts with the moving baits, and fish the moving baits on those outside limbs. And then, you know, the other thing is, you know, once you establish your bite, if it is a swim jig or a jig or dragging a Senko through it, if that turns out to be the bite, well, then it just takes a little longer to fish those outside ones, because you do have to drag through them a little bit. But
you made a great point, and I think it's so important to point out. The second thing that was like fingernails on a chalkboard to me was that same person flipping their jig to the middle of the tree.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they caught a fish, great. But you also, like,
yeah, you might have gave up a bunch
destroyed the tree.
You might have gave up a lot of other bites.
You work outside in.
Yeah.
You pay very close attention to your casting angles. And then thirdly,
yeah,
you, especially with the spinnerbait, if you have that spinnerbait day,
yeah,
or that square bill day, you make multiple, numerous casts to that tree.
To sweet spot. You know, there's now, let's talk about the sweet spot. So on the bushy trees, you know, it's a little bit more difficult, but on the trees that are kind of broken down over time, you don't have as much bushiness to it. You have your main shaft of your tree that kind of, you know, and then you have your main arms that come off of it. Well, they make these V's, you know, where the branches come off the, you know, the main stump comes down and starts to split off this way. One may split off this way. Well, those V's right there are very critical spots for fish to kind of lay into. And it's very important to present a bait into those, you know, into those things. And with a spinner bait, it's great because you can kind of cast just past a little bit and then start it into it and then flutter it down in those, and just flutter it down in those little V cracks, you know, have it come over and just go down into that a little bit, and you'll trigger that, and then start it up again real quick, and you can trigger bites. But they're like key ambush spots you got to kind of realize on those trees, and those V's that you see coming off your main stem. And like George said, not throwing them across them, but bringing them down through.
Well, and there's all those that you can't see under the water.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on too.
That process of dissecting that tree. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have 360, that V that Mike's explaining to you, you can see that on the 360.
Yeah.
You can like see that, like, okay, 10 feet out here, there's one right there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there might even be a fish or two on it, and you can make those casts. That 360 has changed. Offshore wood,
Also,
you know.
George, just, we get rammy. You get rammy and anxious when you're fishing the trees because you want to fish the visible cover. I mean, a lot of us fishermen want to fish visible cover, especially in that laydown situation. So you get really rammy, you want to get into it, and you might rush that outside.
It's no good.
That outside layer. So
it's no good.
Patience.
It's no good.
Is a very, very big thing with trees.
You can't just go blasting in there.
Yeah, you got to really slow it up.
I mean, if you fish enough of them, if you fish 300 laydowns like a madman, you're going to catch your fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't
determine.
You're going to give up so much.
Yeah, you might not determine that outside bite where the big fish may be.
You're going to give up so much.
Okay.
So the square bill, and by its nature, it's so well designed for these trees. These baits are incredibly snag resistant. Just by their design, that square bill, that big wide rolling wobble, kicking this way, rolling this way, deflecting.
See you, Frank.
When it hits, it kicks up, protecting those hooks. The square bill and the spinnerbait, and I highly encourage that Colorado-Indiana combination. Dirty water in the spring, I highly encourage that red kicker. 3/8 of an ounce. I mean, so critical for those laydowns.
Yep.
If you're fortunate enough to have 360, then you're going to have so many numerous unseen wood targets to hit with those baits.
Yeah.
And you can literally line up on them the exact same way we're talking about because they're drawn out for you on your screen.
And make that critical cast to make sure there's nothing on it.
But there are days when, you're not catching those fish on those moving baits.
No, you got to slow it up.
It might be sunshine, high pressure, and those are great days for wood also.
Yeah.
Because it creates tiny little shade pockets.
Yeah.
They have by nature overhead cover.
Yep.
And when those fish's strike zone is small and they're not aggressive, they back into those areas.
They do.
And of course, you know where I'm going.
Yep. Going to the jig.
I'm going to start flipping that tree. Exactly the same thought process as the same approach, the same thought process. And, I got to say this. With the advent of the power pole, this whole game became unbelievably more efficient. You can slide in there nice and quiet, drop the poles, pick that thing apart with your proper casting angles thoroughly, pick the poles up, drift past, drop them again, hit it again on the other side. The efficiency level is out of bounds.
I'm glad you brought that up, George, because I can't help but think, all the tournaments you guys did before power poles and all that stuff, how was it, controlling your boat? How was it fishing, that kind of stuff? How did you?
Well, I mean, Nick, you had to plan it. I mean, you were in a mode where you're planning this whole thing out, I could recant story after story after story about a particular piece of wood, that you had to approach from a particular direction to get a particular cast on it, and the wind was not cooperating. And, you taught yourself how to work it.
Yeah, boat control.
It wasn't always great.
There's a thing called boat control and how important boat control is, and
I used to use my big motor.
And we were able to, with
power pole down.
Before before the power pole, we became very good at, controlling our boat and using the wind and and backing the boat into it sometimes.
You did the best you
You
could.
do whatever you could. But you still made the cast. So if you were at that angle, you would put your foot on there, and then you would, literally twist your body to make that cast to get the right angle on that piece of structure. So that was very important. But here's perfect little tip from Bruce Millard. Look at the tree on the bank for guys that don't have the 360. There's ways you can kind of say, look at the bank. It's a great tip. Look at the size of the stump or the root ball that's pulled over on the bank. And you can kind of gauge on the diameter of that tree how far that may come out.
Absolutely.
So that's a great little tip that Bruce Millard uses, and it's that's that kind of thinking that you want to do. So the other thing about what George is saying, when you're starting to flip and pick the tree apart, listen, 85% of the people that go to a tree can't make the right cast. It's not that they don't make the right cast, is they can't make the right cast. And that's just saying, I'm telling you, there's a lot of guys that don't know how to pitch very good. So when you see 3 or 4 boats go down the bank, chances are those guys aren't getting to those spots where they need to get to.
They're not.
So the guys who sat in the store on slow days and pitched at a little 1-inch hole in the floor for $1 for hours on end is the guy that's going to get that bait to where it needs to go. And that's what George and I did for years. I mean, we did that. That's how we learned how to pitch, and it was competitive.
Well, we had to quit.
And guys would come to the store, and we'd have this, everybody put $1 out there, and it had to be clean. It had to go out and go in a little bitty hole like that. The jig just fit in it. And you just pitch and pitch and pitch. We used to have Bass Club card date night, right? And all the Bass Club guys would show up, and we would put a cup underneath the table back in the corner and we drape stuff around it and make a little target. And then all night long, somebody, after, if you got out of the hand, you'd get up and you go, okay, I'm going. You throw 3 or 4 times, and everybody put $1 in for all the times you throw. Anyway, that's how we learned to do these great casts. And now I'm not afraid to go down the bank behind somebody, because in my mind, he didn't do that. Or he might be one of the 15%, but chances are he's not. So I'm going to go in there, and then I'm going to make those wonderful casts, those crazy under the tree branch, over the next one, around the corner of the other one. And I mean, literally we can cast them and take our rod and make it turn and go into a little pocket, So practice. Don't worry about if there's other guys fishing a tree, because chances are they're not getting to that little tucked away fish.
You got to have the right setup. I mean, when you're pitching a jig or pitching a Texas rig on those trees, it's really no place for light line. I was always a huge advocate of 20-pound fluorocarbon. I could see you dropping down to maybe 16, 18, but no less.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a statement here that a lot of people are going to disagree with, but I cannot stand braid on trees. And I'll tell you why. A lot of this wood has, bark on it. It has all kinds of little slivers and notches, and that braid just inevitably is constantly slipping in there. Now, the deal with the fluorocarbon is you can load that rod up and pop that jig out of there. Not only that boom is a reaction situation. Braid doesn't have that stretch. So a lot of that time you have to go in, dig the jig out, mess up the tree.
Yeah.
So, this whole casting accuracy thing has another level of importance to it, and that is, don't mess up your cover. Whether it's a tree, an old slick log, an offshore piece of wood,
Yeah, don't mess it up.
Establish those proper casting angles.
Yep.
Make those proper casts. Be good at it. You got, one shot. 90% of those fish are going to bite on that drop. Now, if you're working it up and over limbs, every time you come up over a limb and drop, that's like another drop.
Yeah.
But that's where most of your bite is going to occur.
Yep.
And as in all fishing, nothing's like cut and dried,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. The Senko comes into play here. Texas rigging a Senko with a small weight. This is where you're going to use that. We talked about that in the past.
Well, the drop shot plays big time here.
A lot of guys will throw a drop shot on a
You know,
tree.
what I like to call a power shot, backing down a little bit to like a medium heavy rod with like a 15 fluoro. Little short drop.
Greg uses his 15 with on the medium heavy rod. That's what's nice about that. He can use that thing for a lot of different situations.
Little short drop.
So
the Texas rig, like we showed you.
Yeah.
Another excellent aspect of that is the Tokyo rig. Just all you're doing is getting that bait up off the bottom. Something for you to think about in this real shallow water that a lot of this wood resides in. The bottoms are in a lot of places can be silty. So you want to kind of keep that bait up a little bit. You don't want it to if you don't get bit before you hit the bottom, a lot of times that bait's like sinking down into that silt.
Yeah.
Again, there's kind of a attraction there with that puff of silt, but keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. There's a lot of techniques and stuff that you can definitely use on those trees. But the big thing is patience. The second biggest thing is boat control. Don't allow your boat to get over top of your cover and control your boat so you can get the correct angles on each branch coming out all different directions, because fish do like it presented in a certain direction with the timber. And just have that patience. Just get in there and have that patience and cover the wood well, work from the outside in, and that's on your laydowns. What do you got, Nick?
George, you brought up a great point about most laydowns that we're talking about are in shallower water. So are you lightening your jig? Or are you still with your half ounce or?
No half ounce. I'm a huge advocate of 3/8. And when I first started, I fished a lot of quarter. Wind kind of affects that a little bit. Tide kind of affects that a little bit. But a 1/4 ounce jig is totally in play for a lot of the shallow water. Now, by shallow, I think it's important. Now, we're not just talking about the spawning season here, but by shallow, I think it's very important to point out if there's enough water to cover that fish's back, then I will fish it. But you can sort of pattern wood, whether it's a lay down, whether it's a cypress tree, whether it's a stump, whether it's this offshore cover that we're seeing on 360, you can sort of pattern wood if you're having a really good day of fishing, and you can kind of eliminate
You narrow stuff down.
a lot of the area where you're just going to focus on what Mike calls the sweet spot. Another aspect of this whole tree, stump, log deal is what I call the spawning angle. A lot of fish like to spawn on wood, like literally on the wood. If it's a soft, mucky bottom and there's a big enough flat spot, maybe in a juncture of a main trunk and a big limb, they will fan a bed out and spawn on the wood. If it's a suitable bottom, they love having a little bit of a
Cover.
a little, almost I almost think of it like a lean-to. They like to have a little bit of something, and they'll spawn around that wood.
Yeah, and along with the spawns, they'll even on some different types of trees, they'll spawn at the bases of them too, where they come into the water. They use that as a especially if it's a little steeper dropping type of bank. One of the hardest trees to fish is the trees on a steep angle. In what you see in all these lakes, and this is where the creek channel swing comes, where the creek channel swings into that bank, and you have these trees that go into the water at this angle. That is undoubtedly the hardest timber to fish. It's very intimidating, and it's very difficult. But you still approach it the same way. You fish the outside edges of it, and you can throw out there and let your, get fish a spinnerbait or a crankbait or whatever around the outside of it. Maybe let your spinnerbait sink a little deeper and fish it a little deeper. Maybe use a little deeper crankbait and fish a deeper crankbait on the ends of those trees. Again, using those angles very importantly. But this is, on those trees, a lot of the fish will suspend in those limbs. And they're not so much on the bottom. So, trees hanging down over like this, and it may be 15 foot of water where a lot of that good cover's hanging. And it's very difficult to fish at. I don't care who you are. So
if you have the right conditions, you can draw them up.
Well, you can, but I'm saying, it's the hard type to do it. And I think in those situations, you got to be prepared for the fall, the strike on the fall. You got to be able to throw it in and pitch your bait out there and have enough line that you can follow that thing down. Just be ready for because you're falling through those fish, and that's how you're going to get your bites. Is it necessary for it to hit the bottom every time? It depends. Sometimes they will lay on the bottom underneath the tree and down on the very tips of it on the bottom. So, letting it go all the way to the bottom and testing that is going to be important. But be ready for the fall. Fish baits that maybe fall a little bit slower through that stuff, so you can let the fish look at it a little bit. Maybe go to a 3/8 ounce jig, or even a 1/4 ounce jig, or a Senko, or even a weightless Senko comes into play here for that nice slow fall down through those branches. So very difficult to fish that stuff. It's very frustrating, and I think if you slow everything down a little bit and get that slower fall, that's going to be a little better presentation for you.
Well, if it's a springtime approach on those steeper banks, which you're kind of insinuating with that pre-spawn channel swing.
Well, even summertime, they get on that stuff in the summertime.
If you have the right conditions, the quote unquote spinnerbait conditions, those kind of trees really lend themselves to a swim bait. The 6-inch mag draft.
Yeah.
The river to sea S-Waver glide bait that we like. And that's why I asked you, because you can pull those fish out of there.
You definitely can.
Now,
you definitely can.
That is
that doesn't always happen.
that is a commitment game, because you can't throw your swim bait on a couple trees.
Yeah, you got to test them all.
You got to throw your swim bait. That's what I'm doing today. I got the right conditions. I'm just gonna power fish this swim bait. Now the risk is you don't get a lot of bites. The reward is you generally draw that big fish.
Yeah,
and that is a major.
Absolutely.
It's not something you're going to do every day.
No, and
that is a major player.
And none of this stuff, it's just fishing. You got to test the waters on all this stuff, and every time you go fishing, you're trying to establish the pattern. So if your gut tells you to throw a glide bait or a big swim bait on a tree, don't just throw it on one. Throw it on a few trees and see,
like 100.
Well, throw it on a few trees in that area, and then work back through them with something else. But here, Larry Shope, a guy on a mountain impoundment, fishing steep banks. Those steep drop trees are very difficult to fish.
Prime time for the swim bait, Larry, if you got the right conditions.
It is, but the weightless wacky rig Senko is prime for that type of situation. Man, 1/4 ounce jig or a 3/8 with a bigger trailer that's going to slow your fall down a little bit and let that thing kind of come down through that tree and let the fish see it a little bit more. Not necessarily worrying about the bottom, but worrying about the fish that are suspended in those trees. That slower fall really does work. That's been successful for me in flipping trees, especially because where Larry fishes, I fish a lot also. And it's a mountain impoundment. So you have a lot of steep dropping banks. You have a lot of areas where the trees are hanging out over 30, 40 foot of water. It's tough. So just slow down with that, make a slower fall, draw the fish up if you can with swim baits, spinner baits, even cranking the ends of those trees, man. They sometimes they just like to hang out the ends of those trees. But again, slow presentation, slow yourself down, patience, get the angles on that lay downs. Now, George, tell me some other wood that we would be fishing.
Well, I don't want to go down the boat dock / seawall / marina
Right.
way,
Because that's going to be
that's another show.
That's going to be another show. Right.
But I'm a big tidal water guy. I love tidal water. And one thing about every tidal water that I've ever fished and all over them, there's all kinds of what we like to call wrecks, which generally speaking are old wooden hulled vessels of various usage that are basically dumped.
Yeah.
You know, so you have old, I call them barge hulls. You know, they were old barges, right? So when they serve their useful service, they find a spot out of the shipping channel because you can't be putting stuff in the shipping channel, and they scuttle it. Well, the nice thing about it is a lot of them are sunk on the bottom next to deep water. You know, go down to some of the most famous hallowed bassing grounds on earth to see what I mean. Mallows Bay on the Potomac River.
Yeah.
You know, Arkandale Flats on the other side of the river from Mallows Bay.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's a key feature on that a lot of people miss?
You know, to me, it's kind of like fishing a laydown. You know, I want to get that angle right.
Yeah.
So
what's the bottom of a boat look like?
The bottom of the boat is
Rounded.
like,
so you have these.
Yeah, and it's
you
got like
crevices.
the center keel.
Yeah.
And then you got the cross members. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing it is.
Yeah,
it is a tackle eating machine, because all that wood has got all these little crevices for your jig heads to wade in. Now, again, rewind, take your conditions into mind. You might be able to power fish them, but usually if there's fish on them and you catch a couple power fish and you want to come back and test the waters with a jig or a Texas rig,
pick it apart.
You know, so I even made a note here in my notes, old wrecks, right? What do you got, Nick?
Well, I'm glad you guys brought that up because that's not something I fished a lot of. So have you guys had exceptional days on?
Exceptional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that?
The biggest bass I ever caught on the Potomac River came off of a wreck.
Nice.
I mean,
there's wrecks all over that thing.
There's wrecks all over that place.
And one thing I noticed about wrecks too is depending on how they set on the bank, you know, you'll get a deep side to it and you'll get a shallow side to it. And then on the outsides of the hull, you got to understand it goes like this. So there's fish that get back in there. So making a cast and maybe even pulling it in, letting it hit the bottom and pulling it into it a little bit with that angle, you can get back underneath there and you'll catch some fish that are tucked away a little bit more. You know, that I've had great success doing that. Drop shot and wrecks. I've had great success drop shot in the wrecks, but you know, you'll notice there's deep sides to them. There's sides that are silted in a little bit more. Some of them, they're collapsed down flatter, like the arches aren't there. They're more flatter and collapsed down. So it's really understanding your wreck and really, you know, picking it apart properly. And again, angles are very, very important on that. And you want to talk about patience, you know, you pull your jig up and you feel that tension and you go like this, right? You're done. It's over. It's over. Just cut it off right there. I mean, it's got to be like, okay, yeah, there's something, you know, let's see if I can just kind of, okay, up over it goes there. You know what I mean? It's because that wood's soft and those points of those hooks go right in there. One thing, George, that the people aren't hearing us talk about is chatterbaits.
I mean, the tackle box is endless on these scenarios.
Yeah, I know. But with a chatterbait, what I want to tell people is it's the snaggiest damn thing in timber. Well, I mean, it does not go through wood good at all.
You know what me and you do?
What?
We bust out the cross-eyed David Walker with the weed guard.
Yeah, but even that one, man. There's freaking things just don't go through that
Mm.
timber really well. So
that cross-eyed with the weed guard goes through the timber really well.
So you want to fish the chatterbait, a little higher in that water over top of those trees. Not that you can't fish it with a tree, but that's a bait that you're going to kind of power fish through there and really take your time and really watch it, because they hang up freaking horrible in wood.
That weed guard helps a lot.
They are terrible.
So,
but I don't, the weed guard, that bait is, it's great. It's a phenomenal bait, but it's, they just don't go through there. I'd rather throw a spinner bait if I'm going deep into the timber, if I'm going down and trying to get down lower, because something about a spinner bait with that wire, the way the wire is, it's just very weedless. It's a very, snag resistant, presentation as opposed to a chatterbait, because a lot of guys get frustrated throwing chatterbaits around timber, and and then we all do. So
the biggest thing, and this kind of think about this from the wreck perspective, but think about it from your lay down or your log perspective. If you have any current, so like on a river or on a tidal water, obviously tied out, tied in, these old pieces of wood have all these little channels dug around them. So it's 2 foot deep here, 2 foot deep here. There's, I don't know, two old barge hulls sunk on the bottom like this, and in between them, that current accelerates and it's channeled out that bottom. A big old piece of underwater log, that current's washing around. It's cutting that bottom. So now you have that aspect to think about in your presentation. So definitely play the current angle. Definitely play, how these fish they're going to face into that current. They're going to use that drop off. They're going to be on that edge. They're going to have something deflecting that current, a piece of that log or whatever. So think about that as you're setting up your cast, with whatever bait.
Yeah.
Whatever bait you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's that current thing and that whole.
Yeah.
That is very, very important.
Well, let's face it. Most wrecks that you're going to be fishing are in a current situation. They're on tidal waters, or on rivers, or on, bodies of water that transportation is part of it, and it's usually a river or a bay or something like that you're going to deal with,
But it's very important.
Yeah.
It's very important. So something else I'd like to add to this conversation, and I call it the summer angle. So one thing I learned many, many years ago, tournament fishing, on tidal water, actually, I learned this on the Bush River on the Chesapeake Bay. When you have ample amounts of laydowns in a creek or in a river, and you have bait fish here, there, and everything, or everywhere. So now you have an equal playing field. What's going to separate that playing field for you and allow you to focus on the bass holding portion of that is when you have grass in front of that wood.
Oh yeah. Magic.
Preferably milfoil.
It's magic.
Or coontail. But, I'd even settle for eelgrass. Now, the problem is in the modern world, with the prolific spread of exotic grasses like hydrilla, by the time you get to late summer, the hydrilla has pretty much come into your shallow wood and just choked it out.
Yeah.
So the thing about that grass on the wood, you need a little space. So you need a canopy, which is why I highlighted milfoil and coontail. Hydrilla grows like solid from the bottom up.
Right.
And if the water's only 2 foot deep, now if the water's like 5-6 foot deep, hydrilla is a player. But the summer angle is let's say a shoreline with numerous laydowns and other pieces of wood, good, right?
Mhm.
That shoreline's good. That shoreline's good. That shoreline's good. That shoreline's good, but only this one has grass in front of it.
Yeah. Exactly. You can narrow
Yeah.
down a lot of trees real quick.
And the cool thing is they may be on the wood or they may be on the grass. So they move back and forth
Yeah.
and in and out. The tide goes
Definitely
up,
the better trees are with
or
the
the
grass
wind
on 'em.
blows in,
I
or the
love that.
wind blows out.
It's great when you see that. It's like, oh, baby.
That is key. And
I'm going to catch them all fish.
from the spawning season, like, and I'm talking during the spawn when you have pre-spawn, post-spawn, spawn, in through the summer season on that grass around that wood combo.
Yeah. Great.
It's buzzbait and frog time and wakebait time.
I love a wake bait on that stuff.
So, your power fishing is going to change up a little bit.
Yep.
Buzzbait from spawn, when all fish are in all phases through summer. Buzzbait, frog,
Unitoad.
toad style bait, wake bait. So your power fishing changes up a little bit.
Yeah.
Spinnerbait's still a player, but he's been relegated to supreme days of wind and cloud cover. Perhaps a little rain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have that down here in my notes, Mike, as the summer angle.
Yeah, that's
Pretty dramatic, isn't it?
that's great stuff. And I think, there's the stump thing, we kind of covered it with Cifuentes and how he fished the stumps, and you saw a lot of how they fish stumps on flipping stumps and bumping stumps. Isolated timber, that isolated piece of wood, very, very, very critical.
Yeah, he was in a forest.
No, I know, but we saw some stump fishing with him.
To your point, what he said was, a big stump,
yeah,
or groups of 2 to 3 trees.
Yeah.
So he was looking with his electronics for those differences in that forest, right? It's like fishing the famous cypress tree flats on Santee Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like
10,000 of them.
Let's go, baby. And me and Mike roll down the lake and we're like, oh yeah, man. And about 6 hours later, we frothed the hell out of every one of them and caught like 3 fish. And then we finally start figuring out we're looking for differences, a little deeper water swinging in, a cluster on a point. So when you have a whole lot of wood, like I said here with the summer angle, that wood that has the grass on it is different from all these other. And if you ever been in the Bush River, dude, the front half of the Bush River is like the greatest collection of laydowns on planet Earth.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
And, that's a key part of that. There's another thing about this wood too. And this is going to help you immeasurably, especially when you have the trained eye. The shade angle.
Yeah.
So
shade's super, super important.
Let that wood provide that shade to determine that fish position and then make that cast count on that shade.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So there's little tiny like nuances to this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Who'd ever thought all them trees laying in the water can be this complicated?
I know.
Right?
I know.
But it isn't and isn't.
Yeah.
Right?
So practice your casting. You still got time. You got a couple of weeks till you really hit the water and tournament season starts. So Go out in your garage. Let the neighbors think you're absolutely crazy. Get a cup out. Start pitching. Get the cup down to a little cup, and then get the cup down to a shot glass. And then that's what you're going to be pitching at. And don't try to throw, real far, but just practice that pitching. It's very important that you get your accuracy down, because you don't want to be part of the 85%. You want to be that 15% that makes that awesome cast to get to a fish that hasn't been touched in a lot of these timber situations. Pay attention to the trees. If you have the electronics, really, allow them to work for you, and work on your boat control. Don't let the wind push you around, man. Work on the boat control. There was a fella on here a little bit ago. He asked power poles or 360. Well, it depends. If I was a shallow water, tidal water fisherman, or a shallow fisherman primarily, I probably have to go with power poles, because they help so much when you're fishing timber and shallow water. Unbelievable. Yeah, the 360 would be great, but no, I mean, that's where the power poles, I think, would be a better bet. And then for any kind of deeper water, like these lakes and all this stuff, this other stuff that you might get into, and you fish like a whole hodgepodge of stuff, well, then maybe a 360 might be the deal for you. George will say, well, this is America and I want to have both.
So my take on the 360 is, for every piece of wood that you see, there's a half a dozen that you don't see. And I'll give you a perfect example. And this happens all the time. Working down the bank, kind of easing from tree to tree, looking at the scope. 60 feet at 11 o'clock is a log that looks to be 15.
Oh, I mean, that drives me crazy. How many times you have to make a cast on that?
So that 360 angle,
yeah,
if that happens 100 times a day, which it pretty much does.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when
you
Nate
definitely catch fish that you would never catch before.
Do it all the time.
You never would
do it all the time.
You never know they're there.
I remember when Nate Wellman came to town and whooped us all on the Chesapeake Bay and a Bass Open. Bad. And now there was no 360, but he side imaged a creek that had a giant flat that came out and dropped into a channel. And he found this big log wedged on this flat that was suspended out over this channel. The reason I know this is that after he whooped our ass super bad, the next week I went down there and found that tree on my side imager, and then lined up on it and caught like a 15-pound limit in 7 casts. And that was the light bulb going off.
Yeah.
And that is why it's a very hard answer to give, but I would go 360 over power poles.
Well, here's the deal. I got one statement for you. John Cox.
Oh man.
There's definitely the grinder in everybody that can grind it out. And if you're a shallow water fisher, I'm just saying, if you're that shallow water guy that you spend a lot of your time shallow water fishing, or fishing docks, which we're going to get into eventually on one of our other structure shows, or grass. I said structure and he didn't say anything. Or grass. If grass guy, you can grind it out and do quite well. And I think you will do better. And that's in those situations with power poles, to allow you to control your boat better. But it's a very difficult call. Now, if you said, well, I have a spot lock, I'm going to put it on my spot lock, well, then we don't need the power poles.
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
But the reason I don't like the spot lock in that shallow water is, I'm in the days before power pole, I mean, I was like, anything in my power not to even touch the trolling motor. You're in 2-3 foot of water. You hit that trolling motor, you're blowing, me and Mike call it blowing smoke. You're blowing that bottom up. You're making that noise. You go on spot lock on that tree, and a gust of wind hits you, and the spot lock decides to reverse. Now it's totally blowing prop wash all over your tree. Kick it off a spot lock and go to the next one. Spot lock is awesome. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it's not real good in that scenario. You know, and that's a tough choice between 360 and power poles. Thank God we don't have to make it, because power poles are a game.
Well, there's a guy.
changer.
There's a guy asking, and it's an argument on either side. So
It's a great argument.
You know,
It's a phenomenal argument.
Yeah, it's a great argument on either side.
Thank God we don't have to make it.
But you know, it was such a game changer to have power poles, and I just remember, you know, how do we live without these things? You know,
Stealth is where it's at.
Yeah, definitely.
I like to put
Okay.
You know what I do, Nick, in shallow water? I put my power poles on slow deploy, so they go so they don't splash when they hit the water. And then when I pick them up to go to the next tree, I don't double tap them. I just pick them up enough so that they're like up like this.
George is hardcore.
And then when I get to the next tree, I put them down, and it's on the slowest setting, so it's like no splash.
That's pretty cool.
You just hear it go into the water, right?
I like that.
All righty. I think I covered that topic pretty well. If you guys have any other questions on that, you can always drop us email at info@sfttackle.com, or you can jump on the social media and leave a comment in there, and we always kind of read those comments also.
Or you could do something really old-fashioned. Come into the store and talk to us.
Yeah, George Potash, how you doing, buddy? Glad you made it late. Hey, you're gonna have to rewind a lot of this stuff and check it out, because you missed out some really quality information. But glad you stopped in anyway. Nice to see you there, buddy. Thank you, everybody. Look at this. Bill McDermott chimed in there. Don't forget, GDP is starting his kayak tournament fishing this coming weekend, so we'll have to watch him, see how he does in his kayak. First event of the year. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes about it, you know, differently than what a lot of guys do, because I know he's going to do it differently. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah. So you got anything, Nick?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Don't forget Cabin Fever next week. You don't want to miss it. March 9th through 11. And we appreciate everybody stopping in and watching another great edition of Tackle Shop Live. We'll see you next time.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair and your beautiful smile. Your sense of humor makes it all worthwhile. Don't make me wait, it's not a funny game. You know just what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me